Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack what is honestly one of the most mind-blowing economic transformations in modern history. We're talking about how Singapore got so crazy rich. And listen, this isn't just some basic story about money. It is a fascinating, highly structured blueprint of incredible growth, intense strategic planning, and total transformation. Today, we're breaking down the exact formula that took this nation from a vulnerable, totally resource-poor island back in 1965 to now boasting a GDP per capita that's actually higher than the United States, literally built from the ground up. Think about Singapore's origins as a colonial trading port. It was humble, geographically tiny, and practically completely devoid of natural resources. Compare that to the buzzing, hyper-modern financial center it is today. And the wild thing you really need to keep in mind here, this wasn't some slow, gradual evolution that played out over centuries. No way. This was an explosive, incredibly rapid transformation that happened in just a matter of decades after gaining independence in 1965. I mean, imagine taking a small island with zero inherent resource advantages and practically overnight engineering it into a massive global economic powerhouse. The sheer speed and scale of this leap, that's exactly what makes Singapore's journey so captivating to dig into. Which naturally brings us to the big million-dollar question. What exactly is the formula for this kind of success? How did a small island nation pull this off? It is honestly the ultimate high-stakes puzzle. Because, when a country doesn't have massive landmass or abundant physical resources to fall back on, it has to rely purely on strategy, flawless execution, and just extreme efficiency. And understanding this formula is so crucial for us today because it literally rewrites the rulebook on how a nation can build its own prosperity from scratch. So, what were the specific steps that made this possible? How'd they do it? Chapter 1. The Architect. Lee Kuan Yew's Strategy. Okay, let's move to and see how this builds across 3 critical phases. It all starts with those colonial port origins we just talked about, a starting point with, let's be real, some severe limitations. But the whole trajectory flips with Lee Kuan Yew's blueprint. As the nation's first prime minister, he brought in a fiercely pragmatic strategy. For instance, he mandated English as the working language to instantly attract global business. Smart, right? And he rolled out a massive public housing program to unify a pretty fractured population. The direct result of all that careful, meticulous planning, unprecedented hyperspeed development. The strategy was executed so efficiently that the nation basically skipped right past the normal sluggish phases of economic growth. And this wasn't just a local victory. It created, quote, a pathway to rapid growth and development. And that isn't just some casual observation. It's a globally recognized standard today. Thanks to that initial blueprint, Singapore is constantly held up as the gold standard, the ultimate example for other small countries all over the world. Developing nations everywhere look at this exact pathway, basically trying to reverse engineer the success for themselves. It's living proof that with the right structural discipline and a really clear-eyed strategy, a tiny nation can punch way, way above its weight class on the international stage. Part 2. The wealth engines, finance, and entertainment. Now, what's really interesting about this is that Singapore's modern wealth wasn't just some single lucky break. It was a highly coordinated, two-pronged economic attack. First up, a massive finance transformation. They actively built a fortress of financial security to attract the world's capital, and second, they paired that with an explosive leisure and entertainment boom. They realized pretty early on that, hey, to keep the ultra-wealthy parking their money here, you have to give them a compelling reason to actually stay, visit, and enjoy that wealth. It's like a giant puzzle, and these two engines work together in just a brilliant, continuous feedback loop. Let's zoom in on that first pillar for a second. Today, Singapore is totally defined by its status as a buzzing global financial center. But this transformation took incredible regulatory foresight and just intense focus. I mean, within a few short decades, they positioned themselves as the indispensable financial heart of the whole region. How? Well, by drastically slashing corporate taxes and enforcing a fiercely strict rule of law. And that guaranteed absolute security for foreign investors. They created an environment that was so reliable and so efficient that capital just naturally flooded in, which completely transformed the local economy. Whether we're talking about multinational banking, huge investments, or global trade, this financial engine is humming at a remarkably high frequency. But as we noted, banking alone isn't quite enough to create the kind of vibrant megawealth we see today. So enter the leisure and entertainment engine. The city-state aggressively developed its leisure sectors to cater to this massive influx of capital. And think about the logic here. Once you've attracted all that global wealth, you have to sustain it, right? You have to make the city a highly desirable place for the global elite to hang out. So by building out spectacular megaprojects like the iconic Marina Bay Sands, launching the prestigious Formula One night race, and developing luxury playgrounds like Sentosa Island, Singapore made sure that the wealth didn't just pass through on a bank ledger. It stayed, it circulated, and it grew right there on the island. Section 3, the next chapter, challenges and transition. So the crucial point we need to look at now is that immense wealth brings its own entirely unique, highly complex new problems that the nation actually has to confront. The agenda today involves navigating really intense modern wealth challenges, things like a rapidly rising cost of living, an aging population, and of course, shifting geopolitical tensions. I mean, how do you deal with the extreme pressures of being a top-tier financial hub? The real task is keeping that economy buzzing without letting the social fabric fracture. And just to add another massive layer of complexity to the whole shebang, all of this is happening right in the middle of a historic leadership transition. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly where the country's government stands at this critical moment. Right now, the country is undergoing a historic handover of power at the absolute highest level of government. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, the man who guided the nation through this massive era of modern prosperity, is stepping back. Now, Lawrence Wong is stepping up to take the helm. So the established leadership that sustained this incredibly wealthy modern era is officially passing the baton to a new leader, and he now has to navigate this highly complex, high-performing nation. The objective for Lawrence Wong is vividly clear, but honestly, it is incredibly daunting. Maintain the formula. The blueprint Lee Kuan Yew initially built, and those dual wealth engines of finance and entertainment we talked about, it all relies on perfect balance and flawless execution. So the incoming prime minister's primary, high-stakes task isn't necessarily to reinvent the wheel here, it's to keep this massive economic engine running smoothly, even with some huge global hurdles looming on the horizon. Specifically, he has to expertly navigate things like intense US-China trade tensions and the whole tech supply chain decoupling. It is just an immense historical responsibility to inherit a strategically constructed, crazy rich nation and make absolutely sure it stays exactly that way. Which leaves us with one pivotal, lingering question. What must Lawrence Wong actually do to maintain it? As the global economy inevitably shifts and as modern wealth brings all these new challenges, can the original formula survive? Or will the new leadership have to fundamentally adapt the blueprint? It is a fascinating unfolding situation, and watching how the city-state navigates its next chapter is for sure going to be an absolute masterclass in global economics. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Explainer. Keep this question in mind, keep analyzing these incredible structures of success, and I'll see you next time.